Good afternoon. I'm here today with the agencies that have worked for years to make this announcement possible. This includes Baltimore City Fire Chief James Wallace, Assistant Special Agent in Charge John Earl, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, ATF, Baltimore Field Division, Colonel John Herzog, Baltimore Police Department, President Josh Fannin, Baltimore Firefighters IAFF Local 964, President Matthew Coster, Baltimore Firefighters IAFF Local 734, retired firefighter John McMaster, and families of the fallen firefighters Kenneth LaCoy, Kelsey Sadler, and Paul Buttram. I'm also here with members of my office, State's Attorney's Office. We have Tom Donnelly, Deputy. You have Dan Salem, Prosecutor. You have Matt Gailey, Prosecutor, and Sam Mildenberg, the Division Chief of MIU. We're here to announce the following charges for defendant James Barnett: 3 counts of second-degree depraved heart murder, 3 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 1 count of second-degree arson related to the fatal Stricker Street fire that occurred here on January 24th, 2022. Before I get into the details of this case, let me remind you that the charges are not a finding of guilt. An individual charge is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt at trial, and James Barnett is entitled to a fair trial. The tragic loss of firefighters LaCoy, Lieutenant Sadler, and Buttram weighs heavily on our entire city, leaving an immense void, especially from the close-knit Baltimore firefighter family. My team and I sat down first with this presentation when we took office back in earlier 2023. Because we only have one opportunity to secure justice for the victims of this case, we asked our law enforcement partners to continue the investigation to ensure we had the best case possible before bringing any charges. Subsequently, through additional investigation and testing, we believe the science and evidence are there now to move forward. These charges are a direct result of years of diligent work, thorough investigations, testing and retesting that ensured our office was well positioned to move forward. Through dedicated teamwork with our partners at the Fire Department, Baltimore Police Department, and ATF, we're now poised to embark on a meaningful journey towards justice for these courageous shiro, as I like to say, and 2 courageous heroes who dedicated their lives to protecting our community and were taken too soon in the line of duty. On January 24th, 2022, Baltimore City Emergency Services received a 911 call for a fire at 205 Stricker Street at 5:51 a.m. Additional callers reported the same fire, indicating that there were children trapped inside the dwelling. Numerous engines of the Baltimore City Fire Department arrived at the location at 5:55 a.m. to attempt to extinguish the flames. Engine 14 arrived first on the scene and made entry on the ground level at approximately 5:57 a.m. Several Baltimore City Fire Department members entered the building, including firefighter John McMaster, firefighter Kenneth LaCoy, Lieutenant Kelsey Sadler, and Lieutenant Paul Buttram. At approximately 6:09, the 2nd and 3rd floors of the structure collapsed, trapping multiple firefighters. Rescue efforts began, and approximately 6:14, firefighter McMaster was removed from the debris, transported for medical intervention, and survived. Firefighter LaCoy, Lieutenant Sadler, and Buttram were not able to be removed until well after an hour following the collapse. All 3 succumbed to their injuries as a result. The ATF took the lead in this investigation with the support of Baltimore City Fire Department and the Baltimore Police Department. The scene was held and documented using cameras, drone footage, and SceneGo technology. A canvas of City Watch and local surveillance footage identified a person of interest, later identified as James Barnett. Footage depicted Mr. Barnett walking westbound on Pratt Street around the 1400 block here in Baltimore City at 11:21 p.m. on January 22nd, 2022. The defendant was observed wearing a blue and yellow winter jacket and walking into the rear at 205 South Stricker Street at approximately 11:23 p.m. A minute later, an apparent open flame can be seen flashing on the footage. The defendant didn't exit the structure until 11:31 p.m. with no other individuals entering or leaving the dwelling. Additional surveillance footage was gathered from residents and commercial businesses that captured visible smoke beginning at 12:30 a.m. on January 23, 2022, intensifying continuously. Investigators processed the scene for approximately 8 days using a myriad of investigative techniques, including accelerant detection dogs and light source analysis testing. The light source analysis testing compared potential light sources and locations of the light source associated with the flashings of light caused by the defendant between 11:23 p.m. and 11:31 p.m. on January 23, 2022, utilizing near identical conditions. When compared to the surveillance video, the light source analysis revealed that the light emitted from the defendant originated from the inside rear doorway of 205 South Stricker Street. Additionally, the light source was most consistent with periodic flint igniter sparks and open flame produced by a butane cigarette lighter. Based on the new light source analysis using MATLAB and statements made by the defendant, investigators concluded that on January 23, 2022, the defendant intentionally ignited the combustible material inside the rear doorway of 205 South Stricker Street, resulting in the building being fully engulfed in flames. Once again, thank you to all the agencies that were represented. Thank you for everybody that we came together as one, with one focus and one purpose, getting to understand what happened, and that we want to thank everybody represented here today. There's been a great deal of work for multiple years on everybody that you see up here. We want to thank the families for being here. We want to thank the expertise that they invested in gathering the evidence needed to secure this indictment. This was no small task, and the effort everyone put in is a testament to the loss and a testimony to the loss that we all feel, having lost members of our community that truly laid down their life to protect all of us. I now will turn this over to ASAC John Earl from ATF in Baltimore.
Thank you, State's Attorney Bates. I'd like to say 2 thank yous. Baltimore Chief Wallace, Baltimore Police Colonel Herzog, the Maryland State Fire Marshal, retired firefighter McMaster, the families of fallen firefighters Kenneth LaCoy, Kelsey Sadler, and Paul Buttram. I'd also like to thank the dedicated investigators and prosecutors who worked tirelessly on this case. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm John Earl, Assistant Special Agent in Charge of ATF's Baltimore Field Division. I'm humbled to stand here today at the memorial for the fallen firefighters to mark a significant moment on the long road to justice for our community. After nearly 4 years of tireless, meticulous work, I'm here today with the Baltimore Police and Fire Departments, proud to announce an arrest in the January 24, 2022 arson that claimed the lives of 3 heroic firefighters, seriously injured another, and forever changed our community. On that tragic day in January, a vacant building was deliberately set on fire. As firefighters courageously entered to rescue reportedly trapped victims, the structure collapsed, taking 3 lives and forever impacting countless others. The firefighters' families, the brothers and sisters in uniform, and the entire city have carried that loss every single day. From the very beginning, ATF's team of certified investigators, special agents, forensic chemists, fire and protection electrical engineers, and many others committed themselves to working alongside Baltimore Police and Fire and the State Fire Marshal's Office to find the truth. Although almost 4 years have passed, we never stopped working this investigation. Together, With our partners, this team processed every inch of the multi-building fire scene, searching for the even smallest clue that caused the fire. Over the course of the last 4 years, investigators conducted hundreds of interviews, including witnesses, firefighters, and others. Additionally, this team served multiple search warrants, gathering crucial evidence. We collected numerous items of evidence, including fire debris, digital data, and DNA samples, many of which were analyzed at ATF's forensic lab here in Maryland. The team analyzed hundreds of hours of video and carried out more than 1,000 scientific tests supported by ATF's Fire Research Lab in Annandale, Maryland, the nation's only large-scale fire science lab dedicated to fire investigations. More than 10 of our top engineers and laboratory staffs contributed their expertise. This investigation has been documented in more than 50 ATF reports, including an over 100-page report detailing the origin and cause of the fire. Through this extraordinary team effort, investigators determined the fire that resulted in the collapse that occurred here on Stricker Street was intentionally set by James Edwin Barnett. We know this arrest cannot ease the pain, the grief, or the losses endured, but we hope it is a step forward. It is proof that justice will not be forgotten and that accountability will be pursued by ATF and our partners, no matter how complex the investigation, no matter how long it takes. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Baltimore Fire Chief James Wallace.
Thank you and good afternoon. My name is James Wallace. I have the honor of serving the citizens of Baltimore, but I also have the honor of serving for the men and women of this great department, and many of them are here today. The Baltimore City Fire Department extends its deepest gratitude to State's Attorney Bates, the Baltimore City Fire Department Fire Investigation Bureau, the Baltimore Police Department, especially its arson detectives, and to our federal partners at the ATF. Their tireless work has led to an arrest in the Stricker Street fire, the tragedy that claimed 3 of our own and deeply affected our department and this community. While nothing can erase our loss, this is a meaningful step, and it's a step towards justice. This tragedy has strengthened our resolve, our unity, and our commitment to serve and protect Baltimore. And I would invite all members of the media, if you want to see resolve, you want to see heroism, you want to see unity, you look to your left. It's right there. The families and the men and women that serve this department are that example. They're here today. That is resolve and that is unity. The Baltimore City Fire Department will continue to stand with the families of our fallen, with all who are still healing, and with a community that continues to lift us up. This department will never stop pursuing accountability in their honor. And with that, I'll introduce Colonel John Herzog of the Baltimore City Police Department.
Good afternoon. I'll be very brief. I just want to say thank you to the State's Attorney's Office, ATF, and the Fire Department for their collaboration and work together to bring this to a successful resolution. And due to the integrity of the investigation, I'm not going to say anything additional, but thank you very much for coming today. And also want to extend my sympathies to the families and the firefighters who lost a brother and a sister. Thank you.
I'd like to now call up a representative from behalf of the families.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the families of our heroes and the fallen firefighters and Mr. McMasters, we just wanted to express our appreciation to the Baltimore City Police Department, the State's Attorney's Office, Homicide Division, and the ATF for their continued support and their continued pursuit. We appreciate all of the efforts and the work that they've put in. We are here today to remember our fallen heroes and to do everything in our power to make sure that this tragedy like this will never happen again.
Thank you. Also, I'd like to clear up, I think I did mispronounce Officer Lacayo's last name. I do apologize. But now we'll go ahead and open up for any questions.
No one? I have one for the fire chief.
Yes.
I ran into you, Fire Chief Walsh, last week outside the Gold Bond building. I know that your fire department has certainly had an exhausting last week. When you have news like this today, does it kind of bring a little bit of a sense of, good news to your department that you're getting some closure here? And also another thing I want to ask you as well: do your firefighters hear stuff like this? Do they talk about it? Collapsing buildings and whatnot.
So can you repeat your first question, please?
In essence, are you guys have they been exhausted based on last week, the two major fires we've had in the city, and today there's a bit of good news? Does it feel like that a little bit?
Well, I think, I'll speak for myself, right? We're one step closer, right? This has gone on for 4 years, and we're getting one step closer. It's been the persistent work of all those involved, the investigators, State's Attorney Bates, my investigators. It's been a long time, and this absolutely wears on us. 100% wears on us. For some of those that were involved in that incident, myself included, the scars are not going to go away. They don't compare to those of the family, but yes, this does absolutely wear on us.
Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News. Could someone talk about this light source analysis, if that's new technology, and how that helped ultimately result in charges?
So I could probably not intelligently talk about it, so I'm going to have one of the investigators to speak on the technology.
Good afternoon. My name is Adam St. John. I'm a fire protection engineer, a special agent, and certified fire investigator with the Baltimore Arson Group, ATF group here in Baltimore. When ATF classifies a fire, it's not based on a single data source. It's based off of the totality of the investigation and numerous data sources. We, frankly, started collecting data almost 4 years ago here at the fire scene. We collected field fire testings in the building itself. We actually set small fires. We used various data sources, controlled fires, to map out where these light sources could have been inside of the building with a known location versus how they're recorded on video. That was the first step. The next step occurred at our ATF Fire Research Laboratory, where we conducted over 1,000 physical fire tests looking at ignitability of various materials. And the goal there is to collect data to either support or eliminate various hypotheses. We only classify a fire when we have a single hypothesis left that we cannot eliminate. In that case, this single hypothesis left was this was an incendiary fire. It was intentionally set. The actual image segmentation analysis using MATLAB takes a visual image and analyzes the intensity, which is the brightness of various pixels in that surveillance video, and also looks at location, XY coordinates of the flashes of light of the actual pixels. So that allows us as investigators, but also for a jury, to take a visual, a qualitative analysis and put numbers behind it, make it a quantitative analysis. So we were able to map out using graphs the locations of the light, but also the intensities over a specific duration. That's a lot of science and data to say that we looked at the totality of the case, the fire dynamics here at the fire scene, ignition, flame spread data, as well as that MATLAB, that visual analysis, and witness statements to come to the ultimate determination, which was this was an incendiary fire. It's not a single data source. That was one of the most recent data sources we used was a MATLAB testing, but as part of a complete investigation, we used a number of data sources.
Piggyback on that. We were told this was like a novel use for a criminal case. Is this a first? Is this one of the first, or has this been used other times?
So the technology is not new in the forensic world. It's not the first case with ATF. It's one of the first where we've applied it to fire investigations. But image segmentation is peer-reviewed. ATF has actually published, the ATF Fire Research Laboratory has published a paper using this in the laboratory to look at flame heights and locations. So it's relatively novel, but it's not the first time. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of information that's just been presented. The difficulty in presenting this in court to try to prosecute the case. Can you talk about how difficult this could possibly be?
Well, look, one of the things that you have to do, and I'm not going to just say this case because once again I want to have a fair trial. But as a prosecutor, our job is to make sure we prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. What does that mean? That means that we take the information that the police, the fire department, the ATF, they've gathered, that we boil it down so that a layperson, a jury, can truly understand what was going on. And then what the evidence and how the law meet to prove our obligation. And how does that all work? That means you have prosecutors that go in, they take small bite-sized pieces of the evidence, and they break down the scientific evidence, whether they use experts and non-experts, various witnesses, and from there they're able to paint the picture about what happened. Without a doubt, it's almost like doing a puzzle in which we understand the picture, but we have to allow the jury to see the same picture that we see. And this is a difficult case in the sense that there's a lot of pieces, there's a lot of evidence. How do you translate the scientific evidence so that everybody will understand it? And that's what the prosecutors in our office, that's what they will begin to do and work to do. But without a doubt, I will say this, the numbers of times that ATF and everybody, they presented this information, this case to our office, and I think that those of us that were in those meetings, to be honest, I was glad I was a former defense attorney because I had a number of questions that I, as a defense attorney, would have asked. And that allowed us to continue to work together to go back to answer these questions so that we have one shot to get it right, to try to do our best to bring justice to the families. And I think without a doubt, you know, these are first responders who put their life on the line for all of us here in Baltimore, and we wanted to make sure that we did right by them, and we did the best we could. And we feel that we have done that. We've worked very closely with our partners. We took our time, and in taking the time, we wanted to make sure we got it right.
Obviously, there's probably no single thing more important than probably trying to be able to assure the public that this could never happen again. And there have been a lot of looks at protocols and procedures and other things. But in light of the fact that there were reports that there were children inside traps, does that open up the door that something like this could happen, or do we end up in a position where we have to ignore, based on a sign on the wall, those reports that there might be children inside?
When the men and women of this department, and any department for that matter, step off the apparatus, they step into a world that's called uncertainty. And only they know what that feels like, and they have to make those split-second decisions. It's our responsibility to train and teach our personnel in a manner that helps them make those types of decisions. This is an inherently dangerous job. Everything on any incident could be going 100% right. In the nature of this job, something can still go wrong. It's our responsibility to continue to train and continue to get better, help them with those judgments, and strive that this never happens again.
Did the fact that there were reports of children trapped play a big role in all of this, people putting their lives at risk?
People trapped is always a variable that we have to deal with, yes. That definitely, I don't want to say it, that will definitely charge us up. And, you know, again, we have to make those decisions. We have to make them in a split second, and saving lives, yes, that is a huge variable for us.